Disclaimer: the We Are One podcast aims to shed light on the abuse experience within the Independent Fundamental Baptist Church. The stories shared are from survivors who bravely recount their personal experiences. It is important to note that unless an abuser has been convicted in a court of law, they are presumed innocent until proven guilty. The podcast does not serve as a legal judgment, but rather as a platform for survivors to share their truth.
Now let's get into today's episode. Here is your host, Olivia.
Welcome back to the We Were On podcast. I'm your host, Olivia. As we continue with the Bethel Files series, I have sat down with Chad. Hello, Chad.
Hello. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. I'm excited to hear about your experience at Bethel Academy and kind of just Herman Fountain. And I'm not sure if you were there when William Knott was there, but just kind of your whole experience in general. So how did you land up in Lucedale, Mississippi, like Bethel?
Well, it was a shock to me, really. I grew up in a single parent home. My mom raised me and my older brother, and he left for college, and I just was looking for, friendship, and wasn't meeting her criteria of a good son. I was hanging with skaters, and grades were slipping, starting to skip school, stuff like that. She tricked me actually into a family vacation, just her and I going down to New Orleans, and head down there. It was first time we'd been out of the state, so it was pretty exciting to be going down there. And while we're down there, I think I asked her to buy me a pack of smokes, because I was 17 at the time, and turns out that was really the straw that broke the camel's back. That's when she made her decision to take me to Bethel. So we went on a car ride. She said we were going to look at some plantations, architecture, old churches, and that not the case. What ended up happening was I got tricked into going to Bethel. It was a huge rainstorm down south, which is a little different than up here in Washington, and we pulled off to this church. I got out of the car and I went inside the church. She said she'd be right behind me, and then two big guys closed the door behind me, and I was quickly informed that I wasn't leaving. And sure, all the blood just left my body, and I went completely numb. Just didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That sounds very traumatic. Like, you're thinking you're going on vacation, this is going to be fun, you get to spend time with your mom, and then to find out that it was all like a trick in a way for you to get there to Mississippi. And then you said also like about kind of just like the guy saying like you're not leaving, right? And you're probably thinking, okay, funny joke, haha, like let me leave. What was it like your first 24 hours at Bethel?
Well, the first 5 minutes were pretty impactful, because Herman Fountain, walks down these stairs and says, "Well, boy, we own you now. You're here. You're not leaving, and you're gonna do hard work and get some discipline. Don't try running away, because we got the sheriff in our back pocket, and you're just gonna learn a lot being here, and you're gonna start off on, I don't like to use this word, racist, homophobic, backwoods Mississippi." And so he told me in the first 5 minutes, the sheriff's in their back pocket, and I'm gonna be on the new, and I'm gonna work hard, and I'm gonna regret everything I've ever done, to get my mom to put me in here. And I just did not even know how to react to that. My first 24 hours were just numb. I just overwhelmed. I didn't know how to deal with this. This has got to be a joke. This can't be reality. My mom wouldn't do this to me. I was just hanging out with my friends. We just had a good time in New Orleans, and what's going on? Like, why would this happen to me? This doesn't make any sense. Just culture shock, and just a disbelief. And they, take me, these two guys, who were also inmates there. It's what we'll call them at the time, and one on each side walk me through, to show me what these guys are up to. They got different crews in different areas, like, digging in the Mississippi clay. They show me where the dorm is at, and it's like I just got tricked into going to jail. So it was a huge shock, to say the least.
After speaking with so many Bethel boys and just researching about Herman Fountain and just the whole Bethel Boys Academy itself, there was a lot of racism, homophobic terms, and I know that it's in the South, but there's still no excuse for it. But he was big on it, because there's even a clip, and I will put it in the interview where
no problem with that. In the court proceeding, a couple of words came out that apparently were used frequently around here. Nigger piles, nigger crews. That was the Reverend Nigger Boy. Are you a racist?
No, sir. I mean, I love these blacks that I have.
If you're not, how can they be walking around, the kids using the phrase nigger?
They're the ones that's using the word. The blacks are the ones that use
You're the one who control the language here. You don't let them even use the slightest curse.
I have no problem with that.
I have no problem if they run around here saying nigger, nigger, nigger.
He justifies it. There's like no emotion. Like, he doesn't care. Like, it's just like another word for him, right? Like, there's no care in the world. And watching that, I was like just appalled, right?
Yeah.
And and I know that also, like, there's a lot of stories and stuff like that with Herman Fountain, just kind of using that power and control any way that he can, any shape and form, whether that's physical, emotional, all of the above, spiritual. And I know that he was a pastor. What was church like for you there?
Church was like being in a prison camp in a church. So he would preach fire and brimstone type of preaching, which, I actually can appreciate, but the fear factor was just looming. It's always there. It wasn't like you're there feeling God's grace and feel his protective hand. It was absolutely fear driven, and it was just another chore that we had to do. Sometimes he'd bring in guest preachers, and I don't know to what level these folks knew what the situation really was, but they thought they were coming there to give the Lord to disenfranchised youth, troubled youth, whatever it may be. But if they looked in our eyes, it was like, help me, please, but if you said anything, you're going to get beat. So it's just, those circumstances were horrible. Church wasn't like going to church on a Sunday afternoon. It was a break from the slave labor. It was a chance to put on clean clothes and go sit in fear and hope that you got an opportunity to tell someone what's really going on, which never came. He would often preach about things that um, justified his actions and his choices, right? So
Yeah.
very
He
handpicked
has,
messages.
he is, tied in with like um the independent fundamental Baptist preaching, the KJV, and justifying abuse in any shape and form. They love talking about Ephesians 6, honor thy father and mother and all that, but then like they totally skip over the whole don't provoke and like do with anger and all of that too. They just pick that little verse where they can find a loophole to justify their abuse, and then they run with it, and then it hurts children, hurts young adults in their spiritual life, whether they notice it then or years down the road. Eventually you kind of grow up and you kind of get like, wait, something's not adding up here, right? And then you go down like a rabbit hole, and then you find out that it's kind of just a justification for abuse. And they all kind of do that. If it's more like a religious form of school, right? It's mainly, let me justify this abuse with the scripture, and it'll be fine because state and church and all that, I'm covered with the government, and so, and I keep on seeing that a lot, definitely with other, schools and stuff like that are still operating today, which blows my mind that that's even a thing in 2025. So what years were you at Bethel then?
I was there for, about 6 months,
Okay.
really. So I was a short timer. I was there in 96,
Okay.
1996.
So were you
Uh,
there with William Knott or no?
no, I actually, when I left Bethel, I got a chance to go back. So I should probably give some context here. Like,
Okay.
I got severely injured at Bethel. Mowing, I got into a position of leadership, to get that. Some things had to go right for you. You had to earn their trust, which was hard to do. Most people either did it by being snitches, which I was not, or by uh, kissing up to everybody. I really just put my nose down. I said, realized, I tried to run away on day 3. Every day the sun was so hot in that Mississippi heat, 96 degrees, 96% humidity. You're out there with a pickaxe and a shovel in the Mississippi clay. If you don't take siesta middle of the day, you're going to die. So they would do that every day for us, just because physically we couldn't work during those afternoon. And I tried to bail out the bathroom window. I made it. I thought I would. I thought I went super far. I was getting out of here. I think I made it to the next property over, and knocked on the door, and there was it looked like kids my age, maybe a little older. They looked at me like crazy. Like, I said that I came from Mobile, because I really had no idea where I was at. I just took a guess, hearing that Mobile was somewhere nearby. It was not that close. It was pretty far. They're like, "You walked all the way here?" And I was like, "Yeah, I did. I lost contact with my family, and I need to get a hold of them. Can I use your phone?" And they looked scared. They agreed to drive me up to the corner store, which was not that far away from Bethel, as it turns out. I up there using the payphone, trying to use 1-800-collect to, like, that thing where leave them, what's your name? And I say, "It's me. I'm stuck in Mississippi. I got kidnapped. Come get me. I'm in Lucedale, Mississippi." I tried. I got about 2 phone calls like that before a truck pulled up with this guy, Frank, and a bunch of the guys. They found me and they said, "You got 2 choices. You can come back willingly and take your punishment, or we can call the sheriff. And you already know he's in our pocket. And in Mississippi, it's a crime. You're a runaway, and he's absolutely going to prosecute you. So your mom signed over rights to us," is what they told me. So, we have custody of you. So I chose to go back. After that, I just kind of figure there's no getting out of here. That was my shot. I have no idea where I'm at on the map. You know, cell phones weren't really a thing yet. So I just got to put my nose down and figure this out and play the game. So I did that, and eventually got to a spot where they trusted me enough to put me on the front of the property mowing lawns, which was a big deal. I was doing that one day. I got pulled off of a crew. I was like helping somebody with electrical work, and I was wearing like Tiva sandals, and they pulled me off. Didn't get a chance to go change into boots or anything, and they put me on mowing a lawn in these sandals, which is brilliant, right? Ran over a piece of copper wire that was sticking out of the ground unknowingly, some coaxial cable or something, and all of a sudden I felt a sharp pain on my foot. I looked down and there was just a pool of blood around me. And I'm waving to the other guy, Jeremy, that's over there on the Kubota or whatever. Yell at him. He comes over. He just turns white. It's the sight of all this blood. He goes and gets them. They put me in the back of the truck, rushed me to the hospital. Took them many x-rays to figure out that a little piece of copper wire shot in and stuck into the bone in my foot, and I pulled it out. It was, I have this horrible scar on my foot to this day because of no oversight and slave labor is how I look at it. So this reminder of my time in Bethel that, you know, is never going to leave me. And after that, you know, things were a little different for me. Like while I'm in the hospital, no one ever left my side. They didn't give me a chance to have a minute alone with the doctor, and it didn't make much sense to me. They kept me pretty doped up on pain pills, and they brought me Sonic, you know, fast food, all these luxuries that I hadn't had in months, and I think because of my injury and maybe because they're afraid of getting sued or something, when I got back on crutches, they gave me like a leadership position. You know, that gave me the inside look at how this place really operates, you know, pitting kids against kids.
Which is huge in the trouble teen industry. They don't want to get their hands dirty in a way, so they make the guys go against the guys, or the girls go against the girls and do each other's dirty work, so then their hands are clean and you guys are at odds with each other. And then as much as research as I've done with the trouble teen industry and just the facilities and the similarities, there's a little differences, right, with certain places, but most of them are the same: scare tactic, military background, right? Or if they want to be military background. That is insane though. Like the fact that they never left you, which that doesn't shock me in a way, because again, like you said, they didn't want to get sued. They didn't want you to kind of slip up and say something, whether you were high on, you know, the medicine or you were just right? They didn't want you to slip up. So that doesn't shock me. Well, I think what shocked me the most was that they spoiled you in a way with all this fast food and stuff like that, trying to kind of put you in good odds with them now, right? After the whole incident.
That's kind of how it felt. And in hindsight, I realize now, you know, after blocking all that out for years, you know, thinking about that, I was like, God, they really it was pretty clear. They didn't want me to say anything to these doctors. And these doctors are coming and going, "Are you okay?
Yeah,
are you okay?"
I've talked with Micah about this, and Justin too. Like, I feel like there's so many red flags within Bethel, right? The sheriff's in with it. Like, there's just so many corrupt people involved within the community with Herman Fountain and all of this. And my thing was, did a nurse slip up and say, hey, why is there so many people coming, or why is there so many kids and young teenagers coming from this place? Like, shouldn't we investigate? Or did they just simply just look at it like, it's not my business? Like there's so many questions surrounding that. Because like there's so many people also that like William Knott would bring to the hospital, and he would stay with them and stuff like that. And like the injuries were intense and insane. And I'm like, why didn't the doctors or nurses speak up? Or did they? Like, I think it's something
it was
like,
a little bit like the movie It,
okay.
Stephen King.
Mhm.
That whole town knew what was going on. That whole town was involved, or they turned a blind eye out of fear, this town was also backwoods Mississippi. It was run down, decrepit, like probably used to be a much better looking place than it was. Maybe they were pouring money into this place. They didn't want that to go away. I don't know. But there was just this feeling these people were scared of something
Yeah.
also.
Yeah. I picked up on how loyal they are with him and to him. And even still to this day, like the loyalty with Herman Fountain is insane.
What the boys say or any questions, we're going to trust Val. He prepped the town just like he prepped our parents. These are bad kids. These are troublemakers. And I'm putting the word of God in. And I'm changing their lives. They're probably thinking he's a saint. Obviously, there's something broken in the system. And it's not just Bethel. People within this industry have learned from Fountain. And it's done the same thing for years and years and years. And they create this world of wealth and power and respect in their community. That's why we can't get the authorities to act.
Master manipulator.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. So talk about what are some crazy things that happened to you besides your injury with that's insane. What are some crazy things though that happened to you?
Real quick before I jump to that, I forgot to tie it together, is that when I got out of Bethel, like I got to go home. My mom allowed me to come home for Thanksgiving. Turns out the money was running out. So I got to go home and we got snowed in. It snowed like 1.5 feet in Seattle, which is, it was like a record year. The most it snowed in, a quarter century. So they made the decision to keep me home. I left home immediately after that. I was still 17 and I bailed and ended up the week I turned 18, I got in trouble. I got caught with some friends with some drugs, and I went to jail. I called my mom with my tail between my legs. She had been looking for me. There was police looking for me as a runaway. She beat down every door, lit fire under all the Linwood Police Department. They were actively looking for me because of her, which I understand from a parental point of view now and appreciate. But when I got caught, I was given a choice. There's this other program you can go to, or you can face the judge and do your sentence. I had this fear of that. I had no idea what that looked like. It probably would have been probation and a slap on the wrist, honestly. But I chose the other option, and I went to Reclamation Ranch in Othello, Washington, which was Jack Patterson, who's tied in with a crone. He's a good friend of Herman Fountain. It was a different experience. I don't think that Dr. Jack Patterson was very good to the teenagers, the girls that went through his programs. From what I understand now, at the time, he actually was a breath of fresh air compared to Herman Fountain. I'll tell you that much. And he seemed to actually care about these guys' souls. He was taking people out of jail and giving them an opportunity to turn their life around and give it to God. I ended up going on tour with him, is what we called it. And
like
we're based.
I've been waiting for someone to bring up Jack Patterson because I know he was friends with Herman Fountain, and he stalks my platform stuff, and I know he stalks other people and that bring awareness or whatever. And I feel like he's probably like waiting for someone on my platform to bring him up. So that is a cool moment.
It's crazy how these all tie together, isn't it? I mean,
Yes.
this is a
I think
pipeline.
it's
It's a
like a
network.
crime scene. I could put like a thing and here, like, and it's like
Here's your,
everyone
here's
is
my
tied together.
the Bethel board. It all ties back to Lester Roloff. What do you know?
Yes, yeah, and that's what started. I started with season 2 with Lester Roloff, and that's why I'm bringing this up with Bethel, because so many of these places, like the religious aspect of it, with the IFB also. Like I grew up in the IFB, if you didn't know that, but um, everyone is tied in with everyone. They're not independent, as they like to say, and so I started with Lester Roloff. And then as I was deep diving more, and granted, I have a lot more to cover, and that's years to come, right? Because it's going to be a never ending thing. But I wanted to start with Bethel because the similarities and also the ties in with Lester Roloff. And then now like you said, Jack Patterson.
Yeah.
And I'll talk more about that on season 3 with Jack Patterson and the ranch and all that comes. So this is a full circle moment, Chad. Sorry, but I was just
That's okay.
I was
No,
shocked. I was like, oh my gosh, wow, like been waiting for this in a way.
yeah, it is. That's what Facebook did for us. 20 years on the nose. Just all these memories come rushing back, and realizing what we went through, and this network. Someone's got to do something about this. But uh, with Jack Patterson, we went on tour. It's a fundraising tour, is essentially what it is. I'd go to churches along the way. He'd have friends at these Baptist churches. I'd give my testimony, tell my story, and they'd, give him money for Reclamation Ranch and to keep his ministry going. And I met a lot of, another facet of this. There's a lot of kids who maybe are in similar situations, maybe their parents can't handle their teenage years, whatever it may be. There's an aspect of this where kids end up with like missionaries, and they may live in an RV, never have a stable home, and they just travel. I met a girl, Autumn, who was with these ministers, and just when she looked at me, we made eye contact. It was just, help me. It's like I'm trapped. And she's far from home with these ministers. I have no idea what she's been through and no way to help her. So there's kids like that on the road too, still to this day, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
These people, may think they're giving them a better life, and that can be a weird situation if it's at all like Bethel. So when I was on tour with them, we stopped by Bethel. So this is probably 8 months after I left Bethel. We're there. I go in there in a different situation with Jack Patterson, and Micah's still there. Some of the guys are still there. Dan's still there, and Steve's still there. And it was just crazy because it had changed. I saw maybe the beginning of that change, but by the time I went back with Jack Patterson, it was a completely different place. I don't understand how they got a black drill sergeant to be in that racist situation.
That was something that stood out the most, was like how racist Herman Fountain was, and the the racism that like he would do and say and stuff like that. And then you have William Knott come in, like that confused me too, because like, how are you going to be in that environment, right? How are you going to, so no, because he wasn't from Detroit. I know that, William Knott was from Detroit, but I know that they like met in prison and stuff like that. So maybe, I don't know. I think William Knott is just a truly, like, he's a monster. He's unhinged.
It's a sadistic person from what I hear.
Yeah. So maybe that just didn't bother him. Maybe because he's not all the way there. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I can live with that if I get a chance to abuse some kids. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like,
sign me up.
That. He's like, yeah, sign me up. Yeah.
I get to live out my fantasies as a drill sergeant and abuse these kids. Sign me up.
Yeah.
Just crazy. These prison buddies end up, there's no checks or balances.
Do you think Jack Patterson had an idea of what was going on though at Bethel?
Oh, 100%. He knew. The one thing that really has stuck with me all these years is right before we leave, Jack looks at me and he goes, "So, what's it like coming back here? What are you thinking right now? What is it about this place versus Reclamation Ranch?" And I looked at him. I said, "This place is all about the fear of Fountain, and at least you give us the fear of God." And he goes, "That's exactly right." Uh-huh. Um, and he knew it. We had talked about it on the road. I mean, we're in a van driving across the country, so we
How
had a
many
lot of conversations.
how many were you like were with you on the road? Was it just you and Patterson, or like was it
There was 4 of us, I think, that
okay?
were in the van with him.
And were they
One of them,
all from Bethel that would go with you, or like were you the only Bethel that was ever sent to the Reclamation Ranch?
I was the only Bethel, because one of the kids in the van was the son of their local church in in Othello, and then the son of Jack's uh, what do you call it? Superintendent, I guess. He
Okay.
had a guy, Terry, who would handle all the maintenance and run the
Yeah.
facility, kind of. And then there was one other guy with us and me, and I was the only one from Bethel.
And
Um,
were you able to talk to any of the Bethel boys when you went back to visit and kind of like gave your like that area, or like was it strictly like because like with Roloff and other facilities, it's like put your head down, you're not allowed to talk to each other, all that. Were you allowed to talk with the other Bethel boys or anything?
not not without the presence of Fountain. I
Yeah.
mean, Jack was talking to Fountain. I think Micah came over, and it was like exchange pleasantries, and that's about it. But I could even tell. I mean, Micah is a unique guy. He no matter what he's going through, he's pretty upbeat, and I could just he was defeated, and that place was that's their whole point. They're pretty upfront about it. We need to break
Break
you.
you down, yeah, to break
We
you
need to
down.
break you before we can mold you.
And that's how it is with the IFB teachings, like the pastoral aspect of it, and their ideology and theology to make you feel like, you have to earn God's love and God hates you if you do this and that, like break you down, make you feel like you can't go anywhere, whether you're a member of the church or you're at the camps or anything, you're so tied in and like they manipulate you. Speaking with Justin, like he said, his mom worked at Bethel. How she got tied in was, oh, we'll pay for your car, we'll pay for your house. She was a single mom. She's like, oh my gosh, this is great. I'm gonna, whatever. And that's how the manipulation starts, even within the church. There's a lot of IFB churches that are out there still, like, having this ideology and theology that your pastor has to prove everything, right? So it's kind of like with Herman Fountain. It's like you do what I say, you don't question authority, you don't question me. And then with, like you said, with Patterson, you're like, I have a fear with God, not so much of you. But I mean, realistically, what is Patterson gonna do? I've seen pictures of him. He looked like Humpty Dumpty. What is he gonna do? Right?
Large. He's a large human, but he didn't have the same kind of stranglehold that um, that Fountain did. I mean, it was a lot of the same messages, but it was a completely different type of
It was a whole
manipulation, if you want
different
to call
vibe.
it that.
Yeah, manipulation. Yeah, for sure. What are 3 things that stand out the most when you think about Bethel that you think should bring awareness to? Whether that's if a parent's out there at their wits end looking at these places, or it was a memory that happened to you that you think that the viewers should hear. What are 3 things?
So first off, mental health is never going to be addressed at these places. So this was like general population at the county jail. You've got all types of kids in there. There was me, who and kids from families that maybe just couldn't handle the decisions they'd made, striking out on building the relationship with their child, just need a break. So they're there. Then you've got adopted kids that have nowhere, and these adopted parents might even see this as a way to pay a little money to this guy and actually make money off the state foster kid situations. And you've got lifers that have been to every single school and gotten kicked out for fighting, for, whatever, insubordinates, whatever it may be. I mean, you've got kids that are arsonists. You've got kids that are deviant sexual offenders. You've got, kids that are super violent and just, and you've got kids that are misunderstood. You've got kids in an identity crisis. I mean, it's just, there's nobody asking them how they're doing. Can I mean, the phone calls are monitored. I remember my first phone call, you have the blackout period of 2 weeks. Then you get a call of your mom and they're listening on the other line. And I got on the phone with my mom. I was like, Mom, this place is amazing. I'm on the N-word crew. And I just heard somebody on the other end, just like the phone dropped. Like, I can't believe he just told her that.
Yeah.
I was just thinking of any way that I could get her any information.
Did you know at that time that they were listening to you, or was it just like because of the reaction you were like, oh man, I got caught?
Oh, other kids told me they were going to listen in on the conversations. Your mail's monitored, your phones are monitored. So I knew. And
you just didn't care. You were like, I'm going to take the opportunity.
Yeah, well, it's the truth. And I just played it like, I'm just giving my mom the news. I'm telling her how it is. I'm working hard in the Mississippi sun. I'm getting a free workout till I almost die from an asthma attack. And, and I'm on this racist slur crew, a racial slur crew, Mom. And just kept talking. And they just they ended that phone call real quick. And that was my little shot, give her some information, because they do such a good sales job. I mean, they come out and they advertise through their network, through churches, through maybe people on police forces. And I think that's where how it got to my mom was somebody on the police force was in our church. She'd had many conversations. How do I keep my kid from hanging out with these other bad influences and doing this stuff? I'm at my wit's end. Well, hey, maybe you try Outward Bound, or maybe there's this place I heard about in Mississippi. Give it a shot. They're going to be up here having a, informational meeting at the Red Line in Bellevue. And so she went there, and turns out, in there, I think there was 3 other moms for kids that ended up going to Bethel also. Mike Morali was one of them. And there's no checks or balances. I mean, the people in charge are prison inmates. There were, people who got out of prison, who knows when. Frank was fresh out of prison, and he was in charge of us in the disciplinarian before not. So the kids, Fountain's grandkids were on site, and they're yelling, telling us, racial slurs, and, giving us sexual slurs. It's just crazy to have a little kid calling you these names, and you can't do anything about it. And just, there's nobody overseeing these places. If you're going to send your kids somewhere, please do some research. The internet hopefully has some information for you out there. We had no idea back then. My mom had no idea that he had been raided by the FBI and all the kids taken from his program. He went to jail and then got out. That information wasn't available. Barbara Walters did an expose on him. That information, I've seen that videotape pop up. That information was not available to the parents who bought it hook, line, and sinker, that this is going to give my kids some discipline and turn them around. No idea. They were dropping me into the middle of a movie. Get the banjos out, because here I'm down in the South, stuck with no way out, slave labor, loaned out like tools, just in the middle of a nightmare. And it absolutely made me become a man in an instant. I had to sink or swim. And I'll give him that, but that's about it, because instead of being the reason I have a relationship with God, he became a hindrance and a roadblock to me having a relationship with God. So if that was Fountain's big plan, he failed, and he will continue to fail, and he will have a real tough time making that up to anybody. And he is absolutely the best manure salesman I've ever met. And he's just feeding these folks what they wanted to hear. I think that his glory days were in that time. I don't think he gets away with a lot of that the way he did, but he's still out there. He's just dealing with adults out of prison now, I think, is what I heard, instead of
that's
you
what I
know
heard too.
beating teenagers.
Yeah.
Um,
What is
but
your relationship now with your mom? Or what, how was it? Because like you said, you ran away and she was looking for you, and then you ended up, getting in some trouble. But how, I mean, my question is, what's your relationship with your mom? Do you have one? And if so, how could you overcome the forgiveness within like
I
that?
do have a relationship with my mom. It's still good days and bad days, because once trust is broken like that, and I mean I broke her trust, so doesn't mean that it's okay with what she did to me, but
Yeah.
I can't change the past. I ask for forgiveness and patience, and I have to forgive often, and going through this process with Dave and Alan and these guys to make that documentary, just ripping off the Band-Aid week after week, month after month. And it doesn't really get much easier to stir up all these emotions and all these feelings. My brain did a pretty good job of blocking it out. I spent my late teen years, my early 20s, numb. I went to the streets of Seattle and found comfort with like-minded people, gutter punks, oddly enough. Or, I ended up hanging out with a group of gutter punks, like fighting skinheads. So I went as far away from racism as I could get, and became a warrior for justice. I think, for the people who are just in those situations that have to deal with, racist people like that. But my relationship with my mom is still a little strained. I mean, we've had conversations about it, but, still there's days where I feel how unfair that was. The people I was hanging out with before Bethel, they got to do what kids do. They graduated high school, went to college, started working. My life got absolutely derailed, and
Where are you at now in your life?
I'm a proud father of 4 beautiful girls. My oldest is 21, and I tried to hold on tight. She's somewhere on the streets of Seattle, not unlike the situation I probably put my mom through. So I do get that perspective, and maybe that's God's way of showing me what I put my mom through, because I have to live that now and deal with missing my daughter and not knowing what situation she's in from day to day as a young adult. I actually haven't heard from her in almost 8 months now. So, file a missing persons report, go looking for her when we can, and hope to hear from her. She's doing okay, but I still have 3 other daughters to raise. And I mean, Bethel affected every relationship I've ever had and ever will have. I mean, my trust is hard to earn. And when you have it, you better not squander it. That's, you cherish it, because my life's experience it didn't come easy. And I try to share that with my kids, my wife. I manage a store, sell appliances. I have a good job, a good family, and I love them and protect them, and would never, ever think of sending my kids to a place like that. No way is that ever crossing my mind. No matter what, we'll get through this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Chad, it was really good speaking with you and, hearing a little bit about your story and experience at Bethel and also the Reclamation Ranch with Patterson. That was like a full circle moment. I was like, oh, I knew. So I knew someone was going to bring him up in some way and aspect before I do, right? So that was a full circle moment. That was a raw reaction when you said that. I was like, speechless. But I'm glad to hear that, even though your relationship with your mom is kind of estranged in a way and, here and there, and also hearing, about your daughter, and all of that to come, that you still have overcame a lot, right? Baby steps are huge with trauma, and I appreciate your time and coming on for today's episode. And I hope that if anyone ever, stumbles upon my podcast platform and they feel like they're alone, or if they can't get over something, or that they've hit rock bottom, and how can I overcome this, right? I hope that people like you and our stories and our testimonies can give them hope and, just to push through for the future, because better days are ahead. And at the end of the day, we all go through something. Everyone is going through something. And let's just be kind and do better. So thank you.
You're welcome. And I got to say, there's still survivors of the troubled teen industry out there suffering. And if you're suffering, reach out. I mean, I don't have a graduation class to connect with Bethel Boys, but that's my graduation class. I wish that the documentary had showed the moment where I got to see Steve for the first time since Bethel, and the raw emotion of that moment, because that little guy reminded me while I was in Bethel that I'm here to look out for others, not just look out for myself. And he reminded me of a situation that my mind had blocked out, where his hip was dislocated and he was made to continue to march in the rain. And it's like the wave of emotions that came over us as that memory came up. And I didn't realize that I had touched his life and changed something inside of him that's still in there. Years later, it's helped him become a better man. We're out here. We're here for each other. So if you're struggling, just reach out. And I hope that we can have a platform to help people through their tough times.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you again, Chad, for speaking on today's episode and sharing your experience. And who knows what the future holds? Maybe we'll hear from you again. And who knows what the future holds? Maybe we'll hear from you again.
I wish we could have done something about it.